Georgia goes into Austin and takes on the Texas Longhorns and comes out the victor 30-15 in what was a great game. But really good game from both defenses. But Georgia able to go into Austin and pull out a win. Let me start off with this before we talk about and break down the game. There was a call in this game, and I know a lot of you are going to talk about this, and you're 100% right to doing it. The pass interference that got overturned when the Texas faithful started throwing stuff on the field. Look, I'm not going to spend much time on it. Here's what I'd say. The right call was eventually made, but you can't overturn that call. I've never seen a call not get reviewed and it be that long and the call get overturned. Kirby Smart has so many reasons, and he's right, to be mad about SEC officiating and what they did. Look, just to start off, as I alluded to, what a horrible overturn, even though the right call is made. Couldn't be us. Let's get to the game. Georgia's defense, let's start with the Bulldogs. Georgia's defensive line was absolutely insane. Jalen Walker had 3 sacks, 8 tackles, 3 tackles for loss. Mikael Williams, 2 sacks. That was the game. Georgia's defensive line and front seven dominated what most people thought was going to be a really good Texas offensive line, and they dominated from start to finish. You know, last week on AYS SEC, I told you that I'm leaning Georgia, and I wanted to see 2 main things. How could this Georgia defensive line get after Quinn Ewers? And if they could, that they were going to have success. That was the number one thing that we discussed. They did it. It's why they won the football game. But number 2, can Texas run the football on Georgia? The answer is no, that they couldn't. 27 carries, 29 yards. Arch Manning had the longest run of 21 yards. There are sack yardage that's remained in that. Didn't matter. Look, Georgia from start to finish, especially in that first half, dominated on both lines of scrimmage. And where I think Texas is still a very good football team in certain areas, where they got popped in the mouth was their O-line was not able to contain and was not able to stop a really good D-line in Georgia. And look, for what it's worth, Georgia had been, for at least half of the season, most people saying that D-line is not good. Wasn't this show, couldn't be this show. But, man, they got after him. And they got after Quinn Ewers. Quinn had a really bad football game. And Georgia made that happen. When they got after him, it felt like that Quinn Ewers, at least the expression on him and Arch's face, that he wanted to be anywhere besides that football game. Quinn made bad decisions. I thought Sark made bad play calls on third downs, but the Georgia secondary, the front seven, there wasn't a lot of areas for you to make plays. There wasn't a lot of areas for you to do good things because you went up against a really good football team. And for what it's worth, Texas was untested and Georgia had been tested. I love offensively that Georgia got back to the running game with Trevor Etienne. 22 touches, 110 yards, and 3 touchdowns. You got to continue to lean on that running game. You got to continue to lean on Trevor Etienne. But there is one thing, man. This game could have been much worse, much worse if Carson Beck did not have those 3 interceptions. I think that some of his decision-making, I think some of the passes that he's throwing are beyond horrible. Beyond horrible. I don't know what he's doing. And listen, I know that Georgia fans who are watching this don't want to hear this. Having those critical turnovers are going to get you beat. But I thought that there was something interesting in this game. When Carson Beck had thrown his second interception, Jalen Walker had come up to Carson Beck and kind of grabbed him and said something to him like, "We got you." And then it was the time, the series after that, Walker had a big sack on Quinn Ewers, and they were able to get the football right back. They're just becoming a really good football team. And why people doubted them, why people overlooked them is very much beyond me. But the game was always going to be who won these specific areas, these 2 areas. Could Georgia get after Quinn Ewers or Arch Manning with rushing 4? They did. Mikael Williams, Jalen Walker, fantastic. And could Texas run the football? You know, you haven't faced a team that you would go up against that is going to be just as physical as you are, and you had two running backs that got hurt in the beginning of the season. You were unable to run the football. Texas had 4 critical turnovers, and how they kept that game within 15 points is beyond me. But I thought Sark called it a really bad football game. There were 2 for 15 on third down, 1 for 5 on fourth. You just got out-coached. You got outplayed. You try to play system over playmaker. And what do I mean by that? I thought that you thought that your system and things that you did were overcome what Georgia has defensively, personnel-wise. Never was the case. When you have the more dominant dudes, 9 times out of 10, if you play clean football, you're going to win. But the running game for Texas has got to be a concern. Now, they have a favorable schedule. They got Vandy this upcoming week, and they, look, for what it's worth, Texas can continue to win games. The season's not over for them in the slightest. But I look at this Georgia team, and you faced a juggernaut, man. You face what is probably the premier program right now in the SEC. And I think it's funny. I look at the Georgia Bulldogs and say to myself, and just the nation in general. So Georgia has 1 loss in the regular season to Alabama, and we're just going to say that they're not one of the top teams in the country anymore. Like, we're going to do that. Never happened on this show. Not once. Never. Just because you have 1 loss in 3 years in the regular season, who's the standard? Who do you think the standard was? If this Georgia defense can continue to play the way that they're playing, because they're going to be very, very tough to beat. But you got to eliminate the turnovers. You got to eliminate the mistakes. You got to eliminate the dumb penalties that you're having in certain situations. But Texas, man, I mean, look, welcome to the SEC. Welcome to facing a team that's really good. And I don't know if you'll get challenged the way that Georgia can challenge you. Like, you don't play in LSU. You don't play. I'm pretty sure they don't play. And I could be wrong here. Guys in the back, can you help me? No, they don't play Bama. I mean, you got A&M at the end of the year. So you go to Vandy this week. Very favorable matchup, but don't sleep on the Commodores now. Do not sleep on Vandy.